Hey, what's up, guys? Happy New Year. Welcome to 2019, and welcome back to Inside Al Snow's Head. I am Jarett Orr. He is the perfecter of the hot Cheeto Thanksgiving turkey, Mr. Al Snow. Al, how you been, man?
I've been great, and how have you been?
I've been super. I've been busy. The holidays. I had a lot of family coming in. My daughter and her boyfriend spent like 2.5 weeks with us here in Oregon. So small kids. The holidays. I've been good but busy.
Well, and same goes here. Very busy with OVW and with collar and elbow, and then with my wonderful family and the holidays is like everybody. I mean, but it's 2019, and I don't even know where 2018 went. Jesus, and
Yeah, it was. It happened quick.
it did, and we're off to a big year, and lots of big events already happening in wrestling in a matter of just a couple weeks. So
Yeah, I can't believe it. In fact, I had a bunch of fun banter for us to kind of go back and forth like we normally do. But dude, there isn't time for that in this show because the world of professional wrestling is just bursting at the seams right now. Between the where's Kenny gonna sign, all elite wrestling, this crazy tampon spot that everyone's talking about, but before we jump into all of that stuff, I did want to take a second and let how sorry I am for the loss of your friend, and of course, my condolences to the Okerlund family. I know Gene was very close to you, and in the short time that I have known you, at several times you've talked about how much you've cared for him, and I know that for your circle, and of course the Okerlund family, and all of professional wrestling, losing Gene was a tough shot coming up in 2019.
yeah, it upset both me and my wife Jessica. We were really close with Gene and good friends. Gene was such a kind and generous and wonderful, truly gentleman. Um, it was it was a loss, and I feel even worse, for Gene's family, for his wife and his kids, and it's never good. Whenever you lose anyone, it's always bad. And the worst part of it is that as you get older, you lose more and more, and of your friends and relatives, and unfortunately, life is relentless. I mean, that is the one thing that I've learned, is that it just keeps going forward. It doesn't stop. Um,
Yeah, the outpouring for Gene from everybody in the wrestling world was just amazing, and speaks obviously to how highly everyone thought of him. And for me and my generation, he was the voice of professional wrestling for so long. So
yeah.
somebody that's going to be missed by the fans, and certainly by the people like you who knew him on a personal level, and were touched by him in your life. So it was a tough way to kind of start out 2019, but as they say, we must go on, and that's kind of where we're at right now. Now, a quick disclaimer before we get started that I'm going to have some
Disclaimers.
opinions.
I love disclaimers.
You gotta love a disclaimer. Well, I say this because I'm gonna have some opinions in today's show about the wrestling business and some of the things that are going on. And I just want to make sure that everybody knows that these are solely my beliefs as a fan of professional wrestling, and that this has nothing to do with what Al may think or represent him or any of his businesses. And also, when Al's talking to us, it's as a wrestling fan who has an endless amount of insight and knowledge. This is not with information from the inside. So what we're going to talk about
Oh,
today, it
there's
will be,
there's no inside information here. None
yeah,
whatsoever.
this is gonna just be us kind of talking, commenting, maybe speculating in some cases on what we think, and none of this has anything to do with what Al knows to be a fact regarding some of the things that are happening. And I even have to be careful myself now with some of the things that I post on social media, and because every once in a while I'll get a message from somebody like, "Hey, do you know for sure?" No, I don't know anything. I'm just a wrestling fan talking shop at this case, and realistically, Al, you and I have developed a bit of a friendly relationship and the rapport. And I think a lot of that's because I'd never overstep my bounds. I don't ask questions I'm not entitled to ask. And realistically, you're probably so damn busy these days that I'm not sure you're involved in much other than the 5,473 other things you have going on.
It does pretty much are enough to keep me busy. Yeah. But I, and I, I I'm aware of the goings on in the wrestling world, but quite honestly, I don't have, I'm not in contact with anybody. I don't speak directly with anybody. So, much like you said, Jarett, I mean, we're just talking and, opinion and, based on experience and involvement in wrestling over the years. And if I venture an opinion in a public forum, it's probably 99% speculation. So,
Well, yeah, and that's, as I said, I got to the point where I have avoided social media tweets about OVW on an upcoming match because I don't want anybody to think, oh yeah, the guy with Al Snow, he nailed it. He knows who won the match. I would never, and I know that you would never. And there's something to be said for the business and things that stay in the locker room, stay in the locker room. And so I just wanted to make that clear here that when sound bites hit and things get out there, that we're just talking about some of the things like anybody else is. So
yeah.
with that being said, it looks like all the rumors and speculation are over. Cody and the Bucks, along with the ever so deep pockets of the Khan family, have entered the world of professional wrestling, promoting in the form of what's going to be the Jacksonville-based All Elite Wrestling. Now, for the listeners who don't already know who the Khan family is, they're worth like $1 zillion. They own the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Fulham Football Club, the Elite Premier League, an auto parts company in Illinois, the Toronto Four Seasons. So the real stats on him, Al, is Khan's worth $6.4 billion. He's the 65th richest man in the country right now. He is the wealthiest Pakistani man ever born. So
That's
at
amazing.
first glance, it looks like AEW is on a solid track. What were you thinking when you first heard the news, even before the rally happened? What were your initial thoughts?
Well, when I had heard that there was a possibility of potential another promotion, I was happy to hear it. I was and hoping that the rumors would turn out to be a reality. Because let's face it, I mean, it's not going to be anything but positive for professional wrestling. It's going to increase the exposure to the fans and offer them an alternative as far as style and direction. It's going to offer the wrestlers themselves another opportunity and a place to have a stage that they can use to, you know, promote themselves and sell their product, which is themselves. So I'm really happy. I'm really excited and I really genuinely and listen. I trained Cody from the ground up, and I couldn't be more proud of him, sincerely, and more happy for him, and wish only the absolute best for everyone involved.
Absolutely. And like you said, it's going to be great for the business. Now, at first glance for me, the very first thing that I thought of is the dynamic of what this company is going to be. I feel like we've heard a similar tune played before to where you had a billionaire's checkbook, you had a guy who was in charge, who was going to be his son Tony in this case, and you had a top talent who's basically going to be calling the shots. Is this not like Turner, Bischoff, Hogan a bit? And do you think a system where the inmates are kind of running the asylum can work?
Historically, the wrestling business has been the wrestler's business. Some of the most successful promotions were operated by wrestlers because you have to have a sense and a feel and an understanding of what and why you're doing it. Bill Watts in Louisiana, Fritz von Erich in Texas, Vern Gagne in Minnesota, um, Dick the Bruiser, Dick Afflis in Indiana, um, the Ed Farhat, the original Sheik in Michigan, Bruno in Pittsburgh, Eddie Graham down in Florida. I mean, you can go on, Don Owens up in Portland. So you get the idea, because they have a real understanding, a real sense because they've had that experience inside the ring and they know what it is they're selling and they know what the audience is wanting to buy. And so that gives them, a much greater edge. There are those that were never in the ring. Vince Sr., his father, And they did quite well, but they surrounded themselves with former wrestlers that had also been in, were in the ring or had been in the ring to help them out. The same with Vince, Vince McMahon, Vince Jr. He has been smart enough to, surround himself with some very talented, very, intelligent individuals who have had that experience of being in the ring. And so to compensate for him not having that experience in the ring, and that's enabled them to succeed. Jim Crockett did the exact same thing.
Back then, though, was it? And I'm asking you this seriously.
Hmm.
Was it common knowledge that, to the fans and to the people in the territory, that that guy had the book, I guess, as you guys call it in the business? Like, did they know that that wrestler was the boss backstage?
Oh, absolutely not. No, that's why there were, Jack Tunney was the president of WWF. It was to prevent people from knowing that, Vince McMahon Senior, Vince McMahon Junior, they were the real power. The same goes. Crockett was not a wrestler, so that didn't matter. When it came to, let's say, for instance, AWA and Verne Gagne, there was Stanley Blackburn. There was always a front man who would speak to the buildings, etc. Write the checks, because you didn't want people knowing that the guy who is really the power behind the scenes was also the one of the main attractions. Jerry Jarrett, posed as that for a long time in Memphis with Jerry Lawler. Um, so that's changed over the years, obviously, but
So that was one
um,
of my takeaways after watching the rally was, I think I think this is exciting, and I'm not shitting on this at all. I'm so excited to see another big company come in and take a run at this. But the very first thing I thought of was, here's going to be your three top attractions in Cody and the Bucks, and I now know that all three of them are executive vice presidents of the company. And that
yeah,
already, right off the jump, makes me feel a little weird because of the situation. I know that they're the bosses. So every time they win, there's still going to be that piece of me, even if they didn't announce it. Just don't announce it. Be
yeah.
be the executive vice presidents, but don't tell the fans. That's just my feeling on it. Now that I'll
I
always know.
listen. I agree. Because it makes it. Why make it? It is so hard to do your real job these days. It's such a challenge to motivate an audience, to leave their house and come to see you. It's really tough. So, you should be doing everything you can possibly think of to facilitate that, to make it easier, to make it where, you know, that job is at least a little easier. And that was the we've talked about it before. That was the whole idea of kayfabe. Kayfabe was not protecting the business. Kayfabe, it was protecting the business, but not in the sense of what people think. It was simply never not selling what an audience has bought into. They've bought into the idea that that finish really matters. That it's you're really out there competing. And again, we've discussed this before. People knew back then too that wrestling was predetermined. The completely absurd, insane idea that you think that the majority of the audience didn't is ridiculous. They did, and I've given numerous examples of that. But you just, when you go to watch a movie, you don't while you're watching the movie. And again, wrestling is different than a movie. Wrestling is basically it's like being a magician and doing a magic show. You don't just do the magic show on stage and then come off the stage and go, "Did you love that?" Well, and here's exactly how I did it. I hope you liked it. You know, you don't
Right.
do that. I mean, very few magicians still to this day do that. The really successful ones don't do that. They don't come and they don't offer up what they do. You know what I mean? Chris Angel doesn't. I can go on, and
That's what makes
and
it entertaining.
exactly. So why are you going to why are you going to kill it? And now people go, well, okay, now I know the trick. It's like now it's your job as a magician is the same as it is as a wrestler. You need people to buy a ticket to watch you to perform, and so you know, in my opinion, I know everybody knows. Everybody's going to say, well, Triple H. Everybody knows he's in charge, and Stephanie, and I agree, they do.
And they work that gimmick though of being the boss.
Yes, and they and they all but and they also they work the gimmick of being the boss, and they work, but it's a gimmick. You understand what I mean? It's like what Vince was. Vince worked the gimmick of being the boss, meaning, and it wasn't like he was a full-time talent who was competing for a heavyweight title. Hunter in recent memory, has been more like, not like he's a full time talent. And
Not at
when
all.
he
Yeah.
when he gets involved, he's not competing for like it's a, competing for a title. He's involved and does things, and the same with Stephanie.
Usually, and
It's a
and
different
usually he's
sell.
putting someone over.
Yeah, and it's a different sell than he's fighting his way up the ranks to get an opportunity to be the champion or be the best. He's doing other things. So it just where I think to your what you're stating, it's going to be a little tougher because they're Cody and the Young Bucks are not going to be portrayed that way. They're going to be portrayed like they're in the hunt. They're part of the roster, but they're also in charge of the roster.
Right. So that leads me to my next point. One of the other things that really stuck out like a sore thumb to me is Cody comes out and says that wins and losses are going to count. Now, does that mean anything different, or is this just kind of a way to slap the competition without really slapping the competition? Because if what he's saying is that wins and losses are going to count, but this is still a worked environment, if you come to me for the opening show and tell me that I'm doing the favor, I'm going to say, no way. You just told everybody wins and losses count and mean so much. So why would I go lay down now? Make the other guy lay down.
I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, I really hope that he means what he says, and that the wins and losses really count and will really matter, and because that's ultimately, you've heard me say it before. I mean, we're selling the finish. We're not selling anything else but. And I'm hoping that's the tack they take with that promotion. But it's their direction, it's their deal, it's their style, it's their interpretation, their philosophy. They can do it whatever they want. I think that I really think that the more they try to focus on and try to sell the finish, then the more likely they are to be able to succeed.
So they're clearly their goal, and when I say they, I mean Cody and the Bucks. The goal has to be to compete on a WWE scale. That's the only reason you go out and get a $6 billion man to back you. Otherwise, you just keep self promoting. They sold 10,000 seats for All In.
Well,
I imagine
hey,
that's
listen, they're going to need to. If the rumors, and they're just rumors, and it's just speculation about what their possible talent salary base is for people, they're going to have to run on a WWE level. Now, I wouldn't go into business trying to compete with WWE. Nobody's going to do WWE as good as what WWE does. You're not going to. And it's an iconic brand. It's like Kleenex or Kotex or Q-tips or Band.
Band Aid.
Yeah, it's identified as the product. Harley Davidson. It's an iconic brand, and there's a reason they do what they do, and they do it so well. Not to mention they've been doing it, for several decades. Vince,
Generations.
yeah, and generations that have been doing this. So, and offer something different. Just don't offer what WWE is. Come up with your own philosophy, your own direction, because at the end of the day, back when we had the regional promotions, that was one of the great things about wrestling was that, every booker, every promoter, they all had their own style. They all had their own vision. They all had their own direction. And what worked in one place and sold in one place didn't necessarily work or sell in another. It wasn't all unified. The only thing that was actually unified was that if you went to Memphis or if you went to New York or if you went to out to Portland, everybody always sold the same thing. They sold the finish. How they got there, what that audience in that region wanted to pay to see to get there was up for grabs. It was totally on the direction of who was doing it. Memphis, you'd go down there, it was more brawling and punching and gimmick matches. It was almost ECW-ish, in some manner. And you go up to New York and it was a lot slower, methodical, plodding, big tall men. You went out to AWA and Vern, and it was more wrestling. And you go down to down into Carolinas, and it was faster paced, more athletic. So it varied from where you went, but they all sold the finish. And I'm hoping that all AEW, I'm hoping that they take their own tack. They take their own unique vision of it and offer an alternative.
Now, you obviously have a promotion that you're running now, OVW, and in the past you worked backstage at TNA for quite a while, which we're going to discuss one day. But with running OVW and when you were backstage with TNA, how close is WWE's product being watched for competitive reasons?
You mean by the people that were in charge of TNA?
Sure, like when
absolutely, yeah, it was definitely being watched as and paying attention to and seeing what their ratings were and what they were doing right or what they were doing wrong, and definitely, there's no way that you could avoid that, and it makes sense that they should have back then paid attention and watched, but you again. It's just my advice. If you're smart enough, you don't need me to tell you. And if you're dumb enough, you ain't going to listen. But, I would not try to do WWE. I'd try to come up with something totally brand new. That was what, and let's face it, we're at a point in time in wrestling, much like, because history always repeats itself. We're at another point in time in wrestling where people are wrestling fans are looking for an alternative. They're looking for something different, much like they were back when ECW became so popular, and was because the regular wrestling audience was very tired of the cartoonish, homogenized direction that WWF was doing at that time, and and now they were looking for something different, and a different, and for it to appeal to a different audience, and an 18 to 35-year-old audience. And again, that's nothing new. The 18 to 35-year-olds have been the predominant audience in wrestling for decades. Go back and watch old black and whites from the 50s. And all you're going to see in there are adults, in the audience, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, that all you're going to see are adults primarily. You're not going to see a lot of kids. It wasn't until, the mid 80s when Vince learned the magic of licensing and merchandise with marketing to the kids with the action figures and all of that was where it kind of, the direction changed and started to do more of an appeal to a younger audience with the brighter, cartoonier characters, and more simplified. But you go back through the history books and look at photos of audiences and look through the videos, and you'll see lots and lots of grown adult people watching it.
Yeah, that's exactly what the audience always was, and then a lot of times they were dressed up. It was an event.
Yeah, and now you've got that generation that has grown up from the 80s and the 90s, and they're now adults and are looking for something a little more sophisticated and a little more adult like for themselves again.
Good. So I'm happy. I'm happy you brought that up because that was the amount of fans that were watching wrestling during the Monday Night Wars compared to the amount of fans that are watching wrestling right now. It pales in comparison.
Sure, it does.
Where did all of those eyes go?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Was it were they just not fans of wrestling? Were they fans of the edginess of the Attitude Era and the I mean I just don't understand because you
Well,
had so many people.
to one degree, when it was really at its height of popularity, it was because you had captured the mainstream audience, Mr. and Mrs. Walmart, who are very casual and very fickle. So you're not going to maintain, you know, those people forever. Even in the regional days, territories would, get hot and they'd have a good run and then they'd drop off and then they'd pick back up. It's always been cyclical. Um, and you always have the peaks and valleys of it. And at its peak, both WCW and WWE were riding that mainstream wave, Mr. and Mrs. Walmart wave. But you weren't going to be able to maintain that. The real question is when the heat died off and WCW was, on the downturn, they were still doing doing threes, I think,
Yeah,
maybe, in the ratings, which is 3 million people
right.
or more. And WWE at that time was still doing, I think, probably fives or fours and fives, still, really trouncing WCW. So if, you had a total of, on a Monday night, 7 or 8 million people that were watching. Um,
Exactly.
and where did they go? Well, some of them were, WCW loyalists, and they liked that style. But then you had, the product had changed, over these last years. It went through that era, and it got redeveloped and repurposed and became a different product than what that audience initially was sold. It had become more and more and more about what was done in the ring and has continued to, and less about who the performer was and why they had done what they did. And I think, for that part of that, for that audience, that's what they were paying to see. They were paying to believe in who these people were and why they did it.
One thing I've noticed about wrestling fans that I think might be unlike any other type of fans in this regard is that we seem to always come back. A lot of the people, or a lot of the people, those damn wrestling people, a lot of the fans that I talk to will say something very similar to kind of what happened to me. Hey, I loved it for, my whole life, and then I went through a little, spurt where I didn't really watch it much, and then I came back and I watched it again and I haven't left since. Or so I think that it is possible with all the attention being brought to the business right now with a new promotion, somebody that's going to compete against Vince. I think it's possible to get some of those eyes back to the business, at least momentarily, meaning that this is also a huge time for the WWE because in business, there is nothing better than solid competition.
Absolutely. And Vince thrives on it. He loves it. He really enjoys it. Um, and rightfully so. And I think that, it's going to, it really cranks up his creativity and, drives him even more. And when his business is up, everybody's business, the wrestling business as a whole is up. So I think you know, I'm hoping that we can recapture those people, bring them back around. I hope that this AEW is the very thing that can do it. I'm really hope, because it will only be a positive. It can't be a negative.
No, and I had brought this up to you a few weeks ago in text, and I think that it's so funny because a lot of the fans that are still here, they constantly complain and cry about WWE, and they beg, they want the Attitude Era back, and it was never better than when it was the Attitude Era. Yet, anytime anything happens in professional wrestling that's even a little bit tasteless or across the line, they're the first ones on social media complaining and crying about how awful this is. There is zero chance that the Attitude Era or anything close to the Attitude Era could hold up in today's audience. And I think the spot with the girl putting the gimmick tampon in the other girl's mouth certainly has showed everybody that. I mean, there's just no way that the Attitude Era could ever come back. And the fans that ask for it really don't want it.
You may be right. I don't know. I know that there was a big outcry in regards to, what she did. And I know that people like, including yourself, were stating that, things like that were done on WWE TV back in the day.
Yeah,
Um, and I'm not condemning it, and I'm not condoning it, and by any means. Um, um, because I really, it's the number one rule in wrestling is if it sells tickets, do it. But by going a certain direction, you're marginalizing your product. And
sure.
if you want to do that, and you want to, there's going to be an audience that's going to want to pay to see that. But how big of an audience is it? We get back into the conversation of, do you want to have Job Squad t-shirt success, or do you want Steve Austin t-shirt success? I'm not saying that you won't have some types of success, that you won't be able to sell that product to an audience, but do you want, good money, or do you want life-changing money? That's the choice you have to make. And you also have to keep in mind too that right or wrong, whether you like it or not, the biggest platform, the biggest stage to be able to sell your product is WWE. There's no question about it. It's going to give you the biggest opportunities that are going to last the longest to allow you to make money off of your run in WWE if you do it right and do it intelligently for, quite honestly, years and years to come. But now you're that person. You're what That's what they're going to remember. And you have to understand that creatively, they're sitting there and they're like, oh well, we need, I need a person for this particular spot. We're all, as performers, you're nothing more than a piece of the puzzle. The promoter, they're putting together a picture puzzle, and you need to fit in a certain spot to create that puzzle. They're also giving you the opportunity to make yourself into a better piece that fits in other places, that benefits both of you even better, even more, so that they can make even a bigger, brighter, more spectacular picture, and you become even more of a centerpiece in that puzzle. But you've done something, basically, in a way that when they think of the piece of the puzzle, they think of you in that light, and think of you only fitting as that kind of a piece. Well, we've got this idea for, this crazy idea, who do you think would, fit? And then, of course, the first person that comes to mind is, well, let's get this one chick, do you know what I
She'll do a
mean?
tampon spot.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
I know
yeah.
exactly what you
And
mean.
and
And
again, I want to make this completely clear, because people don't listen. They hear, but they don't listen. I'm not condemning her. All right. The only thing I will condemn her on is, if you're going to do something, you got the balls to do it, commit to it. Don't go, don't, you sold what you did. All right. Okay. Because nobody's going to agree 100% on everything. All right. But now don't go and, oh, well, it was fake. It was fake blood. It was, well, now you're trying to placate the people that are busting your balls.
Right.
But, no, no, no. That I'm sorry.
You
Wrestling
sell it as
doesn't.
real. That's what I
There
did. If you
has
did it, you did
always,
it.
you own it. There have always been people who've complained about wrestling and some of the angles and some of the stories, and I struggle creatively with myself, going, oh man, I should do this, and I go, yeah, that's I might not want to do that. You know what I mean? I got to
Absolutely.
rein myself in. But if I'm going to do it and I'm going to get heat for it, I'm not going to turn around and then try to justify it by going, well, it wasn't real anyway, so who cares? Well, that's not, look, that's not the point. The idea is to sell it as if it was, and because now you're not just, you're shitting on your own stuff, which is bad enough, but you're also shitting on everybody else's efforts trying to make a living out of this. Hey, Joey Ryan gets criticism all the time, for his super penis spot. Lots of people have taken him to task, but he owns it and he doesn't back down. He doesn't, well, it's fake, so it's okay. You do what you want. That's up to you. I'm the last person who's going to be in a place to judge you, you know?
Joey Ryan flips people with his dick.
Yeah, he has people grab him in his crotch, and he is able to toss him around. Hey,
You want to know what? It's
he's also
entertaining.
got he's
I
got a
enjoy
test of
it.
strength. He's also, that's where it started. He got on
Right.
ESPN. He was
I
the
think
first
it's great.
professional wrestler to get on ESPN at the time. So, hey, listen. That's his deal. That's his business. That's whatever works. We've talked before. I can't judge anybody. I've made a living making people believe I can knock somebody out with a plastic head. The Rock did an elbow that looked like he was having a grand mal seizure before he fell. The most
and
devastating move in all of WWE is not the tombstone by the Undertaker. It's the bulldog by Scotty 2 Hotty. Because it only
Right.
takes 3 seconds to beat somebody, and the guy has to lay there for about 45 seconds while Scotty does his worm. So, it's again, I'm not one to judge. I'm not one. Do what you want. If again, the number one rule there are two rules in wrestling. There are only two rules. One, if it sells tickets, do it. Two, three rules. One, if it sells tickets, do it. Two, if you're going to do it, own it. Always, always, always keep selling what the audience bought. Don't give them something else. Don't get them to buy into it and then turn around and go, well, no, that wasn't really what I sold you. No, no, no. You did it. Own it. Keep it. And take shit and turn it into Shinola. Shoe polish. That's it.
And for all of our listeners who think that maybe Al is not telling the truth, I have asked him on several occasions how many mannequin heads he's been through, and he always replies with the same answer: one head. That's all there's ever been. One head. That's what it is. One.
Yeah.
And clearly I believe you. It's same one head. I totally get it. So the I have no problem with your take on it, and obviously it's your opinion, so it wouldn't matter what I thought anyway. But I totally understand where you're coming from. Where I do have the problem is some of your peers that appeared in the Attitude Era that are on Facebook acting like it's absolutely the end of the world. They killed the business. I can't believe that this happened. And I'm not going to get into naming names. It doesn't matter. But these are all people that cashed paychecks while Mae Young was giving birth to a hand, while Hunter was hopping into a casket with a dead body, while the Big Show, the boss man was driving away with the Big Show's dad's casket, when you were fed your own dog. So, it's not like awful things haven't happened in the past in wrestling, and that was all fine, but now it's not okay. That I don't like.
Yeah, it's some could say it's hypocritical.
The show South Park, which is obviously will go down as one of the most offensive shows in the history of the world. And the creators have come out and said, it's not offensive because we do it to everybody. So we're not picking and choosing. There's nobody that we haven't poked.
It's like Family Guy too. Family Guy is the same way.
Right. There's nobody that we haven't poked some fun at. Now, Isaac Hayes, who played Chef, was on the show for years, and he quit the show abruptly when they were going to do their show on Scientology, because he is a Scientologist. And he said, there's no way, this is awful, I'm putting my foot down. If you don't, if you do this show, I'm going to quit. And they said, well, we're doing the show, so feel free to quit. And he did. And when they interviewed Trey and Matt, they basically said, listen, he's the one with the issue now, because we're poking fun at everybody. He had no problem cashing the checks when we made fun of every other group. But now, because now it's no good. And that's kind of how I felt with some of the people that were coming out. You guys, everyone was a part of something that they're probably not that proud of, but it's entertainment and it's a business. And,
again, it's your choice. Okay. As a performer, it's your choice. And if you want to do it and you want to marginalize yourself, okay, you want to only market yourself to a very niche audience, you only want to make Job Squad t-shirt money, go ahead. I don't care. That's up to you. But don't cry and piss and moan that, well, I never got a break, I never got an opportunity, I never got to do this, I never got to do that. When you really deep down, you want to be in WWE because it is the biggest platform to allow you to do what you love to do. And that ultimately is, at the end of the day, that's what it's there for and what its purpose is. And and they're not going to, they're going to, based on what they're doing right now and what product they're selling, you're not going to fit in there.
I'll tell you what, you keep mentioning those Job Squad t-shirts, and they were always one of my favorite shirts. At the time, I love the Job Squad shirt, and the Job Squad shirt is back and available for Al Snow fans right now, isn't it?
Yes, at collarandelbowbrand.com, you can go there and you can purchase a version of the original Job Squad shirt, the Pin Me, Pay Me, and Kissing Ass isn't in my JOB description, and relive the Attitude Era and my attitude, which was kind of bad back then.
I have a ton of collar and elbow shirts. Like I say, they're 100% my favorite t-shirts. And it's just the comfort, the style. The Job Squad shirt, not one that I've picked up yet, because when you have 3 small kids, white shirts just don't happen in my household.
No.
But they really are incredible shirts. So guys, if you're looking for an awesome shirt to pick up, let everyone know that you are a wrestling fan without boasting a half naked sweaty man on your shirt. I certainly recommend checking out collarandelbowbrand.com. Really some awesome shirts. Always great deals going on there as well. And on top of those great deals, Al, you got a way they could save a little bit of extra money?
Yes, they can use right now my discount code SNOWMAN, SNOWMAN. They can take 10% off of the purchase, even when we have big sales, like when we do 20, 30, 40% off. That 10% gets stacked onto the other discount, so you can save yourself even more money. But we'll be coming up here very soon. We'll have a Snow Show podcast discount code that you can utilize as well, and take that money off and save yourself some cash. And then you can take your wife out, or you can go buy yourself a box of tampons and stick them in people's mouths. It's whatever you want.
And maybe get yourself over doing so. That sounds kind of nice. So obviously, if you want to be comfortable, you go ahead and visit collarandelbowbrand.com. And being comfortable was kind of the description that Kenny Omega said on what was going to be important for the decision that he was going to make.
Hold on. Wait. Before we get into the Kenny Omega, do you think that whatever that chick's name was that used the tampon, do you think that was like a first blood match?
I honestly think it was a first blood match.
Dude, would we call wrestling now, like, instead of wrestling, we call it like blood sport?
So,
or did they have bad blood between the two of them? Was she just stringing her along?
Just stringing her along. As I was thinking about it, I thought to myself, how would I have done that spot different? Was
it a blood feud?
If it was going to be
Are they now
I can
blood
go.
sisters?
He can go all day, folks. If it was going to be a first blood match, it would have been better for the opponent to rip it out, right? Then I won first blood.
I No, you don't win it. You have the way you win is by making the other opponent bleed. So if she were a heel, she would have ripped it out, rubbed it on the other girl's forehead, and the ref turned around and saw it and goes ding ding ding, you lost. The heel gets color, rubs it off so that the ref doesn't see it, and then gets desperate, pulls the tampon out, rubs it on the. Why am I even discussing this? I'm
We're
discussing
trying.
the psychology of how to win a first blood match by using the tampon.
All
Rub it
right,
on.
here's how we do it with the tampon
Here's
spot.
how we're going to do it with the tampon spot. It's going to be tackle, drop down, leapfrog, get the tampon.
As far as Kenny goes, I
Yes,
personally
Kenny.
don't
Yes.
believe. I don't believe there's much to talk about. I think it's a no-brainer. He's going to be all elite wrestling. He's had the opportunity to sign with the WWE before. He never wanted to leave New Japan. Now all of his buddies leave. They're going to start up this new thing. He opts out of his New Japan deal. I believe it's a no-brainer. He's going to be all elite. Now, again, we know that you don't know. You're busy doing your own thing. But from the outside looking in, and somebody who's been in situations like this before, where do you expect to see Kenny Omega?
I think the my opinion, and that's all it is that he will be an all elite. My opinion is he's doing the smart thing right now, and that is he's playing both ends against the middle and using leverage of each one wanting him, because in the wrestling business, nobody wants you until somebody else wants you, and then once somebody wants you, then now your value goes up, and you try to play the game between the two of them so that you can get as much as you can from the winner of it and go forward from there. I don't know, even taking into consideration his friends, taking into consideration what possible payoff, money wise he can get, and then taking into consideration at first, because if he's already opted out of his New Japan deal so that he can, do this, at first he's not going to have that much of a busy schedule. They're not, I don't, they've only announced their next show, which is in, I think, May
May
25th.
25th
And then
in
they
Las
haven't,
Vegas.
and I don't know if I don't know of a date for their show after that they announced, which was in Jacksonville. Um, but in the meantime, that means Kenny's getting paid to do nothing. So, or not work a full-time schedule like what you would with WWE, which is Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday, and then Monday, and then go home Tuesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then back out on the road on Friday. And granted, some of those Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays, you're not going to go home because you're going to be out doing appearances and in publicity and PR and promotion as part of the deal too. So you're going to be on the road a lot with WWE. That's just the life. But it's going to take a while to get all elite wrestling, whatever their plan is, whatever their intention is, to get them up and operating on a full time level.
If Al Snow was in the position that Kenny Omega is in right now with the opportunities that he has, what decision would you make at that age, at that? And I guess I know you don't have all the information, so it's difficult.
I don't have any information.
But with just looking at things being that way, what would be more appealing to you?
If I was his age and all of that, it would be appealing to go to all elite. I'm going to have more creative control, creative freedom. I'm going to be more comfortable because I'm going to be around my buddies, my friends, and if I'm going to get WWE type money, I'm thinking short term, which means, I'm just thinking of the money I'm going to get. Now with my age and my experience, I'd go to WWE. And the reason I'd go to WWE is, again, it's the biggest, most established platform that's going to, even if I have my run for 3 years and I make good money up there, and then they cut me loose. It's not, if All Elite's still around, it's not like they're not going to want me.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay. And I can I can continue to make a living off of the run that I had in WWE for years to come. If I go to All Elite, um, I'm taking a risk that because I'm hot right now, um, I'm on a good run. That at the end of that run with All Elite, WWE may not be so interested, so inclined, and as a result, and regardless of what they do, it's going to take a while for them to build up their audience to any levels of what WWE is at this time, nationally and internationally, especially going forward. How much am I going to be able to parlay my time in AEW for how long to continue to utilize that time there to make a living?
Well, I'm excited to see how the dynamic breaks down. Like I said, I do believe Kenny Omega goes to All Elite Wrestling.
I think so too. Yeah.
I think it just makes the most sense for him and for the situation. But who knows? I do think that one thing that I thought about this morning, which is kind of funny, is so what's happening to Vince with All Elite Wrestling, in essence, is exactly what Vince is trying to do to the NFL right now as he reopens with the XFL. So it's going to be interesting because he's a smaller fish who's trying to come into to a big market in the professional football market, and now you've got the same thing happening with somebody else trying to burst into the professional wrestling market. Although, like I said, I have to think that Vince is certainly welcoming somebody else to come on and just an opportunity for the competition, just to make the market look that much better.
Yeah. Were you surprised by Jericho announcing that he was going to be there?
I didn't expect it. I wasn't surprised because he's kind of been married to these guys the last few years too, with all the stuff he's been doing in New Japan, and then the cruise that he did, the Elite, the whole thing. Yeah, I was surprised that he was there and he said that he signed. So I obviously never saw that coming, but it does make sense, and I think it helps them because I think they need to get some WWE eyes on the product, because there is your wrestling fan out there that just watches the WWE product. Like you said, they think they think professional wrestling is WWE, just like people think that every bandage is a Band-Aid. They don't realize that it's just the name brand. So I think that there's people that are going to look at it and they really aren't impressed with what Cody's done, even though what he's done has been amazing since he's left the WWE. But the fan that only watches Raw and SmackDown and the pay-per-views isn't going to be impressed. I think Chris Jericho certainly gives them that edge of the WWF fan or WWE fan that's going to look at it and go, maybe this is something worthwhile. Because, again, the Young Bucks could walk into a Monday Night Raw probably and sit in the audience, and I bet you half of them wouldn't even know who they were.
It's true. Yeah. That you're absolutely right. There are going to be lots of people that, aren't, they're not as, prevalent with the general audience. And they're going to need those, former WWE guys to help round out the roster. I'm just curious, what WWE's take is on, Chris, going over to All Elite.
They're pissed. He's already out of the video packages on the beginning of their shows.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah, he's already out of the video packages. So the rumor is, and again, I guess it's just rumors, you read it, but I haven't heard it denied, is that, the last few weeks, Chris was in talks with the WWE about getting re-upped. Now, I'm happy that came out because I truly believe, because everyone says, Vince offered a contract to Cody. He turned it down. Vince offered a contract to the Bucks recently. They turned it down. Vince offered a contract to Chris Jericho. He turned it down. Same thing could be said that he's offering a contract to Kenny Omega. I truly believe that WWE reached out and offered contracts to get the temperature of the water. If you're the Young Bucks and we're calling and offering you a multi-year deal worth millions of dollars guaranteed and you're willing to walk away, that just solidifies my notion that this deal is really going down, that everyone's talking about with this new promotion. And I will tell you something that was very interesting is that Tony Khan, the the son who's going to be running this was on the X-Pac show, and when he was talking about his partners, he mentioned Cody Rhodes, Nick and Matt Jackson, and he mentioned Chris Jericho, all in that same paragraph. So who knows how deep Jericho actually is in this whole thing. But I just thought it was very weird that for him to mention that name when in the same breath as Cody and the Bucks. So I don't know.
Yeah, it'll it's definitely going to be interesting. And again, I want and sincerely wish them nothing but the best of success. It's only going to benefit everyone in wrestling, especially if they get hot and they get on a really good run and they do start nipping at WWE's heels. That would be awesome because it's just going to benefit every one of us. And even just the fact that they've opened it up between the Fox's deal with WWE for the one, for licensing rights for 5 years of SmackDown of $1 billion, and then now this, for people are going to start taking notice of wrestling again and start paying attention and going, as maligned as wrestling's been over decades, wrestling's always been the redheaded stepchild of entertainment, which it's always confounded me and befuddled me because I never have grasped why it's been so, oh, well, wrestling's fake. Well, yeah, thanks, Sherlock. I mean, how long did it take you to put the clues together? I mean, no wonder you work on CSI.
It's true though. You should see the looks that
think about
people
this.
give me crazy looks when I tell them Vince McMahon's the greatest TV producer of all time.
Yeah, well, he is. And because how many other shows have got well over 1,000 episodes, and think about this: how many other, whatever you want to call them, forms of entertainment have run live events and draw the attendance that they do? How often do they run them? And how much do they draw? And how long have they ever done that? Wrestling has been drawing quite literally thousands upon thousands of people at points on a nightly basis, and but for the majority of the time it's been on a weekly basis around the world. And I'm not just talking 10s or 15s, I'm talking 20, 30, 40, 50,000 and more, and literally all over this planet. Name one other one. Name something else, some other form of entertainment that's done that for that long, that consistently.
You can't. Wrestling has outlasted the circus. Ringling Brothers is done. They don't tour. There's no more circus.
Even concerts and musical concerts, and name a band that's been able to outperform, the attendance in wrestling. Name a television show that consistently has, outdrawn ratings for the number of years and number of consistent episodes that wrestling has. And yet
it doesn't exist.
Yeah. And still in 2018 to, 2019, sorry, I'm not real good with time. 2019, I have people going, oh, what do you watch that? That's fake. Or coming up and going, hey, that wrestling, it's fake, right? Why would you want it to be real? Why would you ever want it to be real? We're not, I don't get it. Why do you even care?
So let me ask you this. You say that, and I agree with you 100%. You're 100% right. But do you want to see a world where John Cena is receiving an award for Best Actor for being in the WWE?
No, I don't. No, because that's not wrestling. That is not professional wrestling. That is not the art. If you want to be an actor, go as a the ridiculous connotation and the assumption, the misnomer that a wrestler is nothing more than an actor is absurd. Wrestlers aren't actors, because if they were, more of them would be able to make the transition into acting that much easier and be that much more successful. And let's face it, they aren't. Okay? Even the ones at the upper level, they kind of suck when they first start acting because it's a different skill and it's a different art with its own rules and its own etiquette and its own expectations of performance. It is different. And if you think it that, listen, if you think that it's that much, the actual performance is different, but it's no different. They do kayfabe too. And the way they do it is it's called Us Magazine and People and Weekly. You understand? They have a gimmick of their own that they are selling, and that is the gimmick of a movie star. Or what it's now become is just a celebrity. Why do they do that? Because the studios knew back then you liked Tom Cruise and you liked him in The Last Samurai. That's terrific. But we need you to pay to see Tom Cruise again in another movie where he's not playing the exact same gimmick or character, if you want to call it that, as he did in The Last Samurai. Now he's a secret agent in Mission Impossible. How do we keep you interested and invested and keep Tom Cruise over with you? Meaning you wanting to live vicariously through him. We give you a lifestyle that you don't live, that he does, that's glamorous and is exciting, and he lives a movie star lifestyle that you don't live, so that you continuously want to be like him and live vicariously through him. So now you'll go pay to see him in another movie. As a wrestler, you don't have that gimmick. As a wrestler, you are like The Undertaker. That's why he doesn't have social media accounts. You don't see any posts by him because a dead guy wouldn't do that. He protects his business, his product, because it would kill his gimmick if he were out on Instagram taking pictures of himself with his wife or congratulating his last opponent on a great match in the public eye. That's why we can't do that. And that's why we as wrestlers can't stand up there and get an award ceremony done for us going, you did this, you did that, to the general public. Because now it kills the very thing we kind of sold, and it takes away the mystique. You didn't get what you paid for. You sold me one thing and I got something different. Well, now it's not fun anymore. It's not fun anymore, and I don't want to pay to see it anymore.
Dude, if you're mad, just say you're mad.
I'm not.
Jeez.
I'm not mad. I'm passionate about it
I know.
because it boggles my mind, and it baffles me that even some of the performers in wrestling these days will use that justification for their behavior. Everyone speaks about, well, it's the internet. It's the internet's fault. It's social media's fault. No, it's not. It's the performer's fault. Their usage of the internet and of social media is their fault. And it's their fault that they're not comfortable being the character that they sold to the audience on social media, because they're not comfortable doing it around their friends and family. They feel stupid and goofy. And I give them all, from WWE superstars all the way down. You don't feel comfortable doing that 24 hours a day on social media in the public eye? Then make two accounts. One that only your friends and family can access and be you as much as you want to be. And then make another one that is your public account, and never stop selling what you sold them on TV. You're asking us, the audience, you're asking me, you're asking Jarett, you're asking every one of us to go and buy a ticket and believe and care about whether or not you win or lose in a match. And then tomorrow, we get invested emotionally. We actually give a shit about you. And then tomorrow, you and your partner, your opponent, are sitting there and you're rubbing it in our faces that you got one over on us because you're congratulating each other on how great the match was. Well, I
Yeah.
don't know how much I'm going to be willing to pay a ticket to see it again.
Certainly something that you're passionate about on that topic, and it makes sense. Everything that you said makes perfect sense.
That's why it's frustrating for me, is because I'm not. I try to be logical, and I try to make sense of what we're doing, and I believe, to me, it makes sense. But then people give me nonsensical excuses about, and then try to tell me that I'm wrong, or that, oh well, it's changed. Well, how's it changed? Are you selling something different than what we were selling 20 years ago? Is it now something new's fake? It's not just the finish that's fake. There's something else that's fake now. What else? What else is fake now? I'm curious.
It's the same old story. It's
Yeah.
we're buying the exact same thing that we've always bought in professional wrestling.
And they'll and the younger generation will try to convince you, well, now they know it's fake. Brother, I'm telling you, I swear to God, swear to God, swear to your mom, I swear to I swear to you, anybody, anything and anybody you want. I'll swear to the great flying spaghetti monster. Okay. That they all knew years ago that it was fake, that the outcome was predetermined. And guess what? Nobody wants it to be real. They enjoy it because it isn't real. And you know why part of it is that they enjoy it for not being real? Is because they can feel comfortable with themselves and not have a conscience and admit they enjoy watching another human being violently beat the shit out of another human being.
Right. No, that's you're absolutely right.
That's why we designate boxing and say, well, it's a sport. We designate UFC, well, it's a sport. And UFC actually was actually safer years ago when Dan Severn and I first got involved in it because the guys weren't standing up the entire time punching each other in the head with light 3 ounce, 6 ounce gloves. They were taking guys down and trying to get them to submit. And there was less head trauma back then, but it was marketed as if it was this ultra violent sport so that it would, that was the gimmick they were selling, which in turn boomeranged on them. And, it caused an outrage because there were those people that were not comfortable with the idea that they enjoyed watching a human cockfight.
I'll never forget wanting to rent the UFC VHS cassette tape from West Coast Video, and my dad being like, "Yeah, no, you can't get that." And I'm like, "Well, I got WrestleMania 3 last weekend. Why did I get WrestleMania but I can't watch this one?" And that was kind of when I started thinking to myself, "Yeah, something's different about professional wrestling than." And that was
It's the professional wrestling is acceptable because we know they're not really hurting each other, which is nothing could be further from the truth. I mean,
right.
you constantly are getting injured and hurt in that ring, especially more so these days because the guys are their timing, their footwork, and their distance is not the same, and they're working at an accelerated pace and it's all about what they do and getting to the next move, and that creates injuries.
So, for all the fans that love the WWE and all the fans that are so excited about All Elite Wrestling and are watching all of this, or maybe the people that hate WWE and they are hating on the All Elite Wrestling, there's a bunch of other alternatives out there, and
Oh yeah.
one of them you know pretty well, and there's been quite a bit going on. What's going on in OVW, Al?
Well, we're working on a lot of different things. We're just continuing to rebuild the brand. We are starting our classes up, our training classes back up again this next week. We also are beginning our next week. We're getting our first round of international students that will be coming over because we have a abbreviated or 12-week course where it's more intense because you go more often during the week to train more frequently. We're continuing to build the brand, and we're going to continue. We were developing our own pivot share channel. It'll be the OVWASWA wrestling channel. We'll be uploading the shows that we do on a weekly basis, each episode, and then we'll be uploading the entire library that we own of OVW, all of its past television episodes, and then also all of the Saturday night specials, the monthly events. We're almost to a milestone on that, which is 100 Saturday night specials that have been ran at the Davis Arena. We're going to
That's awesome.
be uploading all of those as well. We have a library of seminars that have been conducted by numerous people. ODB and Victoria Tara from TNA did one. Shane Helms, Billy Gunn, Tommy Dreamer. So people can access those. We'll be doing our, We'll be doing live. The goal is to do our television live on that channel, and then also hosting some live seminars that will be interactive. So you can sign up, and we'll have different people come in and do seminars with people there physically at the arena, and then we'll also be streaming it on that channel, and you can sign up for that as well. So we'll have a monthly subscription fee. I'm not quite sure what it will be, but it certainly will be less than what WWE is charging, because we're not WWE.
Look at you getting all technical and getting into the technology game.
Nah, not quite. And we're working on a partnership, running a super show in March with Impact Wrestling, developing a relationship with Impact Wrestling, which will, I feel will be a very mutually beneficial relationship for both companies. And
That's really exciting, and I'm happy to hear that because I truly believe that in order for the wrestling world to thrive, you guys all have to kind of pull together against the machine. So
yeah,
anytime I see these shows and where they're working together, that's always exciting and encouraging for me because it's going to be one of the best ways to make a great product.
yeah, and we're working, with Tried and True Pro Wrestling in a partnership with them, and it just makes sense. We are stronger together and working together as opposed to fighting each other and beating our heads against each other. It's just not gonna, it's not gonna be, it's not gonna allow success for any of us. We're just gonna waste what resources we have just struggling against each other as opposed to all of us rowing in the same direction.
Now, one of the things that I've noticed in some of your social media pictures that you've been posting recently is, dude, looks like you've been getting a pretty close shave, and I think that's
Oh,
thanks to our friends over at Busted Anvil, right? How's that? How's that razor treating you?
oh my God, I love that thing. I love that. I even got a sharpening stone for, made a beautiful handmade straight razor for me. It's a piece of art. It really is. And, I got a sharpening stone for it. They gave me a leather and canvas strop to put a fine edge on it. And man, I'm not kidding, Jarrett. If you really want your face as smooth as a baby's ass, learn to be a real man and shave with a straight razor. Man, I'm telling you, it is awesome. It really is. And quite honestly, you get to five, normally about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock a day, if you're a normal guy, you pretty much you start getting, 5 o'clock shadow. And they call it that for a reason. Man, you don't get that until 5 o'clock the next day when you shave with a straight razor.
Yeah, it's the guys over at Busted Anvil. Check them out on Facebook or bustedanvil.com. When I was talking to the guys over there, he let me in on a little fact that some research that they've done that the average man spends over $4,000 in his lifetime on disposable razors. And that to me, when he told me that number, just blew me away. So for about $10 a year to maintain, you can get one of these straight razors and again have a piece of art, something that you can
And
hand down.
you can hand down to your children. You can hand it down to your son. It's an heirloom. It really is, and they're beautiful. Just amazing.
Busted Anvil's not just straight razors either. They've got all sorts of men's product over
Oh
there
yeah.
for your beard, for your hair, for your skin. Just really an awesome thing. So, for all of our male listeners, a great opportunity to step up your grooming game. For our female listeners, really would make a great gift. We've got enough number one dad mugs and ties. Hit bustedanvil.com. They've been a good friend of the show and a
Get
good.
yourself get yourself one of their shaving soaps. Get yourself some of their aftershave, their beard balm, and actually smell like a real man. Smell like back in the day when men were men. And
Sawdusk and bourbon.
oh yeah, just that's when you walked into a barber shop or
Absolutely.
they had that. It was you smelled like a man. I mean, that's and in this day and age, there's nothing wrong with a man being a man. Not biologically. I mean, what a man is, and women like it when you're a man. So
As it turns out, that's something that is a
Kind of
big
works
pointer
that
for
way.
them. So, yeah, so visit our friends over at Busted Anvil. Al, we covered a lot of big headlines. I'm still on a bit of a holiday hangover in my house. Like I said, I had my 19-year-old daughter and her boyfriend. Tyler, who was actually a great kid. We really had a lot of fun having them in town. But when you have the whole family together, and of course 19, so she's my stepdaughter. But I've raised her since she was small, and I know that you guys are a blended family as well. I'll tell you what,
Yeah.
dude, step kids are where it's at. To be honest with you, so like if she gets a doctorate, I'm going to be in the front row at the college clapping, screaming, "That's my girl." But if she's standing trial for murder, I'm just going to say, you know what? I got in a month too late, a year too late. Had I
And
gotten
if
there a
I,
little sooner,
if only I'd been there.
shit, I could have changed this. So,
Could have stopped all of that.
yeah, just a year too late. But yeah, so we're coming down on that holiday hangover in our house. So before I let you go, I got to know, how was the hot Cheeto turkey?
It was delicious. It turned out great. It really did. Year before, I'd done like a bacon wrapped turkey. So like I've done bacon wrapped burritos before too. Those turned out really cool. But the hot Cheeto turkey was delicious, and it was actually really tender. It wasn't dried out or anything.
I was quite amazed when I saw that, and my wife was as well.
It
Tonight.
looked like I'd stood in front of one of my kids and like Indiana Jones went Kalima, Kalima, and pulled their heart out of their chest.
Yes, it was. It was certainly an interesting visual piece, but I'm sure, as far as edibleness, it was a culinary delight.
It was. I felt like an Aztec. I was eating somebody's heart.
Tonight, your good buddy Robbie E makes his debut on the Rocks Titan Games
Yeah.
show. So I don't know if tonight's swimming night or what it is, but
I hope for
uh,
his sake it's got something to involve water because he'll do wonderful. I mean, if it's anything with heavy lifting or actual athletic performance, he's going to be screwed. Or God help him if it's some kind of mental challenge like a puzzle that he has to figure out. He's done.
I shouldn't laugh because I'm a fat guy and he's in phenomenal shape. But obviously
Yeah,
compared to guys like
he
you,
is. He's in the shape of a straw. Lee, his upper body should see his legs for non-support.
oh
I've
my
seen better
god.
legs on a picnic table. I swear to God. It just, it, you know, uh, and I
Well,
know, I know horses' legs are thin and they run really fast, but you know, it doesn't work that way for Robbie. So,
I wonder what kind of strings he had to pull to get on this. So,
well, if they were probably, if there were any strings he pulled, there were probably knee pads that were originally on him. Oh, that's a joke about his legs again. Oh, my fault.
whew. Try the veal, folks. Al's going to be here all week. Don't forget to tip your wait staff. So,
Yeah, probably be Robbie
well,
E after he gets done, on the Titan games.
well, just so you know, first of all, we're both being very disrespectful because it's not Robbie E anymore. It's
It's Robert Strauss, the brand,
Robert Strauss. It's an entire brand.
entire brand. Yeah, it is.
And to be honest, we should probably be careful how we speak about him because you never know. He's gonna be in the Rock's next movie if he wins this competition.
Oh, well, clearly we know what the Rock's next movie is going to be, a comedy. So,
Oh, at that point, we might as well roll the credits. I had a lot of fun today, Al. I think there's a ton of cool stuff going on in the wrestling business, and I'm super excited to kind of sit back and watch it all happen. And one of the things that's so exciting about being able to do this podcast with you is you genuinely love to talk about wrestling still. You're not one of those jaded, bitter. You enjoy talking about professional wrestling, kind of no matter what it is. And that's what makes this so much fun for me, and I think for our listeners as well. So thank you.
no, thank you. I've always been and will always be a fan of professional wrestling. So,
I can't believe there's another fake Al Snow Twitter account that is
I
buzzing
know,
around
I
out
know
there.
that was incredible. My daughter sent it to me. I had to laugh, and I of course immediately sent him the pat, response of brother. Seriously, if you're going to fake being a celebrity, set the bar higher. What are you doing? You know what I mean? God, why are you fake being me? I mean, it's not going to get you much. I'm telling you, you're still going to have to spend $7 at Starbucks to get a cup of coffee. So.
So for our listeners out there who aren't already, you can follow Al on Twitter at the real Al Snow with the blue check mark.
The blue check mark, yeah.
He does have the blue check mark. So this guy went in with the real Al Snow _.
He copied, but he copied everything on
your profile pictures,
on my profile, everything.
Everything.
It took time and effort to do this. Why? What is, you have that little going on in your life? Seriously, man. I'm not angry at you. I feel sorry for you. I really genuinely do. I feel bad. I feel like I need to, wherever you live, I need to come down and take you out, and we need to have a good time because your life is pretty empty. So.
Yeah, if you're out there, reach out to me at the Snow Show Podcast. Slide in the DMs, and we'll get a picture signed out to you from Al.
Or I'll talk you off that bridge you're about to jump off of. If you're that you're that interested in wanting to be somebody, be Robert Strauss the brand. I mean, heck, he sucks at it. You can't do any worse. So.
It gives you an opportunity. Don't give anybody any ideas because now we're going to be getting shit when there's 5 new.
Even though you
just be yourself.
It might actually help Robert Strauss the brand get over it. Who knows?
Just be yourself. So on Twitter, he is at the real Al Snow. I am at Jarett. The show is at the Snow Show Podcast, and we are out of time on this episode.
And you can find us. You can find OVW at also on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. And you can find me, the real Al Snow, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. It's all the real Al Snow because, yeah, as you can tell, there are some fakes out there.
There are some fakes out there. And, that's one of the really cool things that I wanted to bring up is that OVW, for the folks out there that are not in the greater Ohio Valley region, OVW is always available on YouTube. The episodes make it up there. I don't know. I think it's usually a few days after it airs on TV for you. But you can always catch it at ovwrestling.com, and they put it on YouTube as well. There's links on that, so you can keep up until you have everything up and running on that end. But for the fans that want to see what's going on, there's really some awesome wrestling going on there with some really neat things. What was the deal with the Rumble gimmick match you guys just had?
We had a night, basically our take on the Royal Rumble, which is the Nightmare Rumble in honor of Danny Davis, and the winner is guaranteed a title shot against Abyss, and Tony Gunn lasted till the end and was the last guy in, so he's won himself an opportunity for the heavyweight title. And everybody loved it. They really, really, really enjoyed it. I mean, they had a great time.
I haven't seen anything bad. In fact, you guys had that real nice little write-up by the WrestleZone about OVW and about you as well. That was really pretty neat. So make sure you're following Ohio Valley Wrestling and kind of really see tomorrow's superstars. I mean, because that's what you guys have out there. These are guys that we're probably going to see up in the WWE at some point.
I'm sure there are those that have the tools and just need to be developed. And get that experience. And quite honestly, there aren't many places that compare. And I'm not saying it because I own the place, but there quite honestly isn't many places that can compare to OVW as far as, getting genuine, actual experience, both working on TV and performing at live events on a regular basis, to really develop those skills and that polish that, you need so that if you get an opportunity on a bigger stage that you're going to be able to go up there and perform and not, be a fish out of water.
And OVW's turned out a star or two in the past, so it could be the right.
Just a few. Yeah.
could be the right platform for it. Well, Al, again, thank you so much. I had a lot of fun today, and look forward to hearing some feedback on this. So, like Al said, you know where to reach us. If you have questions, comments, concerns, something you may want to hear Al talk about, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll make sure to touch on it in the future. Other than that, we look forward to getting together with you guys next time on Inside Al Snow's Head.